It's day 16 of the Advent calendar, my friends. Yesterday we talked about sharpshooter skills, critical hits, and sharpshooter tactics and builds. Today we'll talk about XCOM 2012 mods, XCOM Long War, and XCOM 2
The time has come to reclaim our world. Welcome back, Commander.
Incoming transmission.
Day 16, Strategy, XCOM 2012 mods. Alright, so if you're unfamiliar with mods, let me give you a breakdown. Mods are house rules for your game. The same way when you play Monopoly and someone lands on free parking, they get all the money in the middle and you start with like a 500 and all the money from the tax cards and the tax square gets sent into there and paying your way out of jail or whatever. Maybe you've played this before. That's not in the rules. It's a house rule. It's the way someone thought the game would be more enjoyable. That's what mods are. You may be scared of mods because they can be difficult to install, they can be confusing, they can be hard to get working together, and they can be poorly explained sometimes. Not always, but if you work with mods, eventually you'll find this is true for some of them. But they can improve your graphics, they can improve game balance, they can improve play experience, they can add completely new features, abilities, characters, storylines. Basically, someone has a dream for a game that's good or great, but it's not perfect for them. Some people have such an intense dream that they make it true. The great thing is, a lot of people think alike. And you can say, oh, I wish this game had the ability to save in the middle of a level, or, you know what, I wish this boss could just be a little bit smarter, or I wish those enemies exploded when I killed them, or left the bodies behind, or whatever. Someone else out there is probably thinking the exact same thing, and they may have created that and shared it with you. Modding is amazing. It's an awesome collaborative work to make something that you love and something that they love better and more enjoyable for everyone. XCOM 2012 has a huge, thriving mod community. It's not as big as some communities. Skyrim in particular has an incredible modding community because dragons, and they make more dragons. There's like 76 types of dragons, or you actually get cold and have to survive in the wilderness. All sorts of awesome stuff in Skyrim. But XCOM 2012 was notoriously hard to mod, and so XCOM 2012 modders are really proud, and we're especially proud of Amanari. Or maybe Amanari. I don't know how to say it. I've only read it. Amanari is, frankly, a genius programmer who code dove, tore through files, figured out how everything works, decoded it, told it to the rest of us, and then went ahead to optimize and create new mechanics all by herself for XCOM Enemy Unknown and XCOM Enemy Within. She did so much. She's, I would say, the iconic programmer for XCOM 2012. The technical work she's done allowed so many other people's projects to be possible and better than they ever could have been without her, that she's just a legendary XCOM 2012 modder. Johnny Lumpkin is a military sci-fi author and XCOM lover. He had a dream for XCOM 2012 where it wasn't an exploratory game that gave you so much slack and let you fail, but a game that you had to play as if the world's fate hung on the balance of every one of your decisions. And with Amanari's help, he made that game. That is XCOM Long War. It is, it's like 5 times longer, harder, and more strategic and tactical than the original. Utterly fantastic. It also makes the game much easier to mod. As a matter of fact, I didn't have time to mod the game because it was so difficult, even though I knew how because other people had tread that path before me. until Johnny and Amaneri set up Long War to be incredibly easy to mod, much like Garth DeAngelis and Firaxis are doing with XCOM 2, or have already done with XCOM 2. And then I did have the time because it was so easy. And so I spent 2 years, that, you know, it does take time, working on it. And now I have my own mod built on top of Long War called Art of War, available in the same place, nexusmods.com. And I'm incredibly proud of it. And I'm incredibly proud of the Long War team because not only did they foster a thriving community, and not only are they excellent at what they do, and the proof is in the game already that they made for free for everyone, only asking for donations after like a year of development anyway. But they actually got recognized by Garth DeAngelis, who said that the original campaign for XCOM 2012 was a 20-hour tutorial for the Long War mod. Which no higher praise can be given from a guy makes a game, sells a game, someone comes up with house rules for it, and then he says, you know what, that is the way the game should have been. Thank you. And the fact that XCOM 2 is going to be highly moddable straight out of the gate, the fact that Firaxis has hired the Long War team, who recently created their own company, Long War Studios. They've been hired to create mods for launch day of XCOM 2. Is just the highest honor and the most satisfying and heartfelt thing that our community could have hoped for to happen to these excellent philanthropists and contributors, because it was an awesome thing they did for us with no expectation of payback, just because they loved the game.
Incoming transmission.
Day 16, Tactics, XCOM Long War. So if mods in general are the strategy, then the tactics of the modding of XCOM 2012 has to be Long War. This is the one true mod for XCOM 2012. Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within. So why is Long War the best? Well, for one, its creators started out with a lot of vision, and through the magical techno wizardry that Amaneri brought to the table, so much of that vision was able to be realized. Don't get me wrong, a lot of other people helped with the mod. I believe towards the end there were like 8 people contributing, plenty of time, lots and lots of time. But it was awesome. So what happened? For one, they had an idea of a more dangerous, a more tactical, a more strategic game where your choices mattered more. And it turns out that there's a trend in gaming these days of making things harder and more unforgiving to players, because people like that. People like feeling like they accomplished something difficult. And Long War really upped the ante when it came to difficulty. They also introduced new mechanics and abilities. They balanced the game a lot so that shotguns were different and cool, and sniper rifles were different and cool, and the assault rifle had its place, and then they introduced heavy weapon. It was awesome. They doubled the number of classes available, giving you so many more choices and how to level up your soldier, and creating all sorts of crazy perk trees. They made the perk trees 3 rows wide instead of 2, so you had 3 choices every level instead of just 2. They introduced the idea of officers by recycling the medals dynamic that was added in with Enemy Within. They were like, you know what we can do with that? Officers. So then there were officer ranks, and officers eventually got a special ability to give extra turns. It is exactly copied by the Inspire ability of the Psi operative in XCOM 2. They also tweaked all the enemies to make them more dangerous and threatening and awesome. They made it so you could start in different places on each map, making each map into like 8 different maps instead of just the one that you played over and over again. They allowed you to, you can take back countries from the aliens, something you couldn't do at all in the base game, and you could have multiple alien base assaults, and you could have multiple XCOM base assaults. It was just utterly fantastic. When you look at the description, they're like more than 300 major changes. You know, good luck, because it's actually, it would be it's almost impossible to say everything that Long War does. It would take a 3-hour breakdown, and no one has time for that. I used to know what they were, but it's all blurred together now because I've played, you know, 25 hours of XCOM Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within, and I've played 980 hours of Long War, plus my own mod. Probably played a good 700 hours of that with my mod too. So it blew new life into the game, transforming it from an exploratory game to a tactical, I would say, roguelike experience where death lurked around every corner unless you made good decisions, and if you didn't make great decisions sometimes, it still lurked. The community grew because they loved it, and because Long War also made the game easier to mod yourself, I think, which really attracted a ton of people to the Long War mod, and which Firaxis hopes will attract a ton of people to XCOM 2, because its modability is so much easier than what the Long War team had to deal with, that anyone can turn their dreams into reality as long as their dreams are kind of simple. And with enough time, effort, and love, anyone can turn their complex dreams into reality with the XCOM 2 modding engine, we all hope. We're pretty sure. Anyway, that's why it's a big deal, because there's this huge community that wants to mod XCOM 2. And for them to say, we actually did it, we made it from the ground up so that you could mod it, is a huge thing to everyone. And I think we're all incredibly thankful to Firaxis for letting their people do it, because it's expensive and there's no price tag, because everyone who's making content and modding is giving that away. But the fan base, the loyalty, the draw has always been one of XCOM's strong suits, and I think they're doing a really good job of capitalizing on it by making XCOM 2 moddable and by hiring the Long War team to make some initial mods available on launch, which is just going to be awesome. You can expect a difficulty level that will blow your mind compared to the other difficulties from this team, because they are sharp and they love a challenge. So, I was also personally inspired by Long War. As you may have heard in the last segment, I created my own mod. It's awesome. It's almost what I've dreamed of. And eventually, with Long War's help and back and forth, I even contributed a couple decent ideas to Long War myself. I first suggested that scouts start with lightning reflexes instead of, what did they have before? Sprinter or something? Anyway, just saying. You're welcome. It's awesome, and if you've never tried Long War, I think you should. And if you want to jump straight to my mod, I won't tell Johnny, but it's cool. I think the XCOM 2012 modding community is going to stay strong even after XCOM 2, but we're going to get into that in the next
Incoming transmission.
Day 16, Disposition, XCOM 2 modding. So, I haven't seen the modding tools for XCOM 2. I know the people who got a preview copy have had access to the XCOM 2 modding tools. I know that they'll be compatible with Steam Workshop, which will make installing them a dream and take care of all that, you know, general hassle that comes with modding, which, yeah, there can be a lot. But Steam Workshop is probably the easiest mass-marketed way to deal with that, and that's amazing. I know that Beagle Rush modded the game to make it more difficult and add in more enemies. He added in enemy health. He added in a number of enemies after his initial little playthrough of the preview missions. So that's exciting because it was already there. Like, this is such an intrinsic part of the game because they made it an intrinsic part of the game. I know that their dedication to it is really strong because they hired the Long War team, whose only merit in a business sense was that they had created the Long War mod, which they gave away for free, which was highly successful. So it's really nice to see like community members picked up and paid for doing what they love. And it shows a lot of dedication on Firaxis's part. You can expect all sorts of craziness on Steam. How are you going to choose? You're going to want to look at what people say about it. You're going to want to look at ratings and endorsements. That's the best way to choose a good mod. Otherwise, just search for what you really want. I would look at the most popular ones, and then I would search out exactly what you're hoping exists, because it might. And if you find the right person and tell them, they might create it for you. And I wanted to say, I don't think that the modding of XCOM 2012 is going to be left in the dust. I mean, XCOM 2 is going to have so many more options, it's going to be so much easier, and there's going to be so much good stuff. But XCOM 2012, while initially difficult, anyone who actually hacked it and made their dream happen in XCOM 2012, especially the Long War team, made it exactly the way they wanted it to. It's not like they got a bunch of modular pieces where they could mix and match and they could say, oh, you know, this would be cool. They said, we're going to build it from scratch. And I think the beauty of Long War is that it is perfectly custom made. They didn't have to compromise much at all. They just went straight for what they wanted and they made it. Also, I think that when people think about XCOM, they think about the original game, defending the Earth from an alien invasion. And while XCOM 2's new theme and mood, I think, are excellent choices for the genre and a great way to advance the plot, when people get that nostalgic rush, it's going to be for the original. But they're not going to want to play the original. And so I think there's room for a few modding, a few, let's see, iconic mods in the XCOM 2012 realm. Long War is going to be the one. I hope that for people who continue to want more from their game, that my Art of War mod will be the second most mentioned mod in the XCOM 2012 modding community. But that's just a hope. I'm going to keep working on it. And I guess I'll just, yeah. So my mod is about halfway done. Probably more than halfway. I would say it's 70% done. The first third of the game experience is complete. The other 70%, I'm waiting to figure out what the balance is. And when Long War released its final version, so Long War is no longer going to be updated. It's version 1.0. It's launched. It's been beta for 2 years, and it is amazingly well balanced. But I don't think it brought as much out of the game engine as you could possibly bring out. So that's what my mod is. I take everything they unlocked and every road that they paved for me, and I put the F1 ultimate engine on everything and say, take it to the max. Like, what can we do with this game? How fun can it possibly be? And I think it has a chance. So I'm really hopeful. If you want to check it out, go to nexusmods.com and search for the Art of War mod by Phwop. It is available for free download. Installation is fairly easy. You do have to install Long War first, but installing Long War is incredibly easy. And it's a complete overhaul of the game. So it's a completely different experience. You want to read the description first because, like I said, mods can be confusing, especially big ones. But I think it is worth your effort. So, thanks for joining me. I hope you appreciate what is going on for the Long War studio team and everything everyone has put into Long War, including the hours and hours and hours of playtesting we all did for Johnny's mad dream to come true. And come true it has. So, let's hear it for Long War Studios, because I think that's just amazing that they got to live the dream. Until then, farewell. Alright friends, that's it for day 16. If you enjoyed this content, please go ahead and like this video. If you'd like to see the next Advent Calendar video as soon as it comes out, please subscribe to my channel. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about the Dream Team, Order of Operations, and Mortality.